So our second speaker is Jessica Zistatsis, and she's a mechanical engineer at OrthoCare Innovations, LLC. Here at HuskyADAPT, we know her as our first design chair, who mentored our very first HuskyADAPT design teams and laid the foundation for our design program. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin her video here.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Molly, for the introduction. It's good to see the HuskyADAPT community again. Gotten to stay in touch a little bit with UW and the new Create Center that I think HuskyADAPT is now affiliated with. So it's been kind of fun to see how the community is growing more than just the club, but kind of what's happening around the Seattle area for accessibility. So neat to be a part of that. So I don't have slides for you. I'll show a video a little bit later on, but I just wanted to have more of a discussion, just sharing my story a bit. So I started out kind of always knowing I wanted to do engineering, just felt like that was the only path that I knew that I was exposed to. So I did running start in high school. If you're not from the Washington area, that's where you can go to a community college in your junior and senior year of high school, and the school district will pay for your college credits. So I started college my senior year of high school, started taking my prerequisites and did a STEM program there where I got to work on a 3D printed prosthetic hand with a group of students. And that was nice. Like I knew I wanted to do something medical, but that was kind of my first exposure to it. And then after I got my associates, I transferred to UW where I stayed for finishing my bachelor's and then my master's in mechanical engineering. So I wanted to make sure, so I guess to phrase this, I believe that every person is born with a unique purpose, and I don't want mobility to be a hindrance to that purpose, to someone's ability to independently take care of themselves, to provide for their family. I knew I wanted to kind of empower people from the medical standpoint, but using an engineering and technical background. So I wanted to not just become an engineer that would work on a more efficient engine or a more ergonomic airplane seat. Like I wanted to have a tangible impact in people's life. So that really kind of tailored the application of what I focused on in engineering. So as an undergrad at UW, I got involved with a physical therapy professor in the UW School of Medicine rehab department, and he was working on a prosthetic foot that would adapt to various terrains. A lot of prosthetic feet will just have an anterior, posterior heel strike, roll over, toe off. And the foot that he was working on, if you rotate it, it would have medial-lateral adaptation. So if you're walking on the side of a hill, you could have adjustments. The foot would make adjustments so that your leg could stay vertical. So that was really neat. Got to do some 3D printing prototypes, got to work in a motion analysis lab for the first time, and kind of experience for the first time what it's like to have somebody prototype, like an amputee, using your prototype, give you real-time feedback of like, hey, I like your concept here, but this isn't comfortable or something. And then, okay, to put on the engineering hat on, how can I change my design to accommodate that feedback? So that was what I did my junior year and the summer after my junior year. And then my senior capstone project was UW's Engineering Innovations and Health program. And if you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend it. It's basically let's take one step further than just doing an engineering capstone project. Let's actually engage with the community, clinicians, individuals in the medical device industry in the Seattle area, and solve a real clinical need. Let's do the needs finding. Let's not just make a device that someone says they want. Like, let's actually dig a couple steps deeper and see what's the real need behind what they think they need. And so that kind of turned into my capstone project, trying to solve the need of children with mobility impairments, such as cerebral palsy, needing to get more quality walking practice outside the clinic. So my team of like 5 other students, we arrived at a body-powered exoskeleton being the solution to that, something that didn't have a power source. So you weren't tethered to a wall plug-in. You weren't using a big robotic exoskeleton in the clinic, but you could have something that attached at your hip, your knee, your ankle, and could kind of help propel you through a more kinematically, I don't want to say kinematically correct way of motion, because something I learned through working with physical therapists at Seattle Children's was sometimes correct or normal isn't always the best way to go. Sometimes you just need to determine what that child's able to do and help them be most successful using their mobility level. So needed to make a device that would be accommodating enough to different kids' mobility levels and goals. So then we got that first prototype done at the end of senior year. And then I was able to work with Dr. Kat Steele going into my master's program in the Ability Lab and continued developing it. I got kind of involved in the business side of things as well. Did the Healthcare Innovation Challenge and the business plan competition at UW, and really wanted to take this to the next level. Like, hey, if this is a device that's going to impact a larger population of kids, I don't want it to just die as an academic program, like an academic project. Like, I want it to be marketable. Let's figure out how to make that happen. I wouldn't recommend trying to start a business and do grad school at the same time. That was a little overwhelming, but learned a lot and it was fun. So anyway, my working with Dr. Steele in the Ability Lab and working on this project and with Seattle Children's Hospital, as I kind of mentioned, I found that mobility and accessibility work is a lot more than just creating devices that can be sold on the mass market. Like, there is an importance to that. But coming back to, like, everybody's worth a unique purpose, everybody has unique skill sets. And sometimes you need to harness more of those individual skill sets rather than a normal basis. So that kind of led into HuskyADAPT that, Brianna was getting started, and I was totally interested in getting on board because I wanted to explore what individualized, personalized device design looks like. And so I had, as Molly mentioned, I headed up the design teams, helped with the needs finding perspective, talking with community stakeholders, creating the student design teams. So that was a really fun way to kind of balance the, I'm learning from an engineering standpoint how to make devices that can be mass marketed, but also keeping in balance like the real human side of things. So anyway, fast forward now, I'm a mechanical engineer at OrthoCare Innovations, which is a prosthetic, orthotic rehab device design R&D company. It's about 20 minutes north of UW. And our goal is basically to improve the mobility of individuals with limb impairments, both devices for the patients to use, as well as mobile apps and sensors that clinicians can use to gather quantitative data from like the device users. So I'm going to show you a little video kind of summarizing the type of work we do. Just a heads up that it might be a bit louder than my voice. So get ready to adjust your volume.
The good way to describe rowing is when you see a duck on a Sunday morning. He's just floating along, looking so cute. So underneath the water, his legs are flapping 50,000 beats per minute. It's crazy, it's not pretty, and that's what I love about it. It's not like any other sport. I am a Paralympic bronze medalist in rowing. My first pair of legs had limitations to them. The feet would not move, so when I got on the erg and stretched my legs out, they would just be sticking straight up. So with this foot, I can connect with it through the Galileo app, and the foot can move up and down to whatever angle it needs to be. Before, if I wanted any changes, I would have to go into my prosthetist office to change the alignment in my foot, and you had to do it on their time. So this app has really allowed me to live my life instead of revolve my life around my prosthetics. It's really hard for girls to be growing up and not being able to wear like high heel shoes because you're limited by your prosthetics. And these feet in my app allowed me to do that. And something just small as that like changed my life completely.
I had always known from a very early age I wanted to build software. When I lost my leg 3 years ago, I was really disappointed by the lack of technology in prosthetics. My first reaction was, this is something that I would really love to build an app for. The first time I saw live streaming data coming from my prosthesis, it sent a shiver down my spine. Like, this is where this technology should be. I can now control a part of my body using the iPhone. And I think that is going to become the standard as this level of care reaches more people.
So that's a quick little snapshot of the type of work we do, where it's smart prosthetic orthotic technology, the mobile app development. So I, as a mechanical engineer, I kind of have a role in the hardware side, but I also have been moving into project management and quality management. And so that's really taking a look at, okay, from birth to end of the project, when we have the project conception, the first idea after talking with some community members or clinicians saying, you know, hey, I really have an issue with this device that we've got. We'll start doing the focus groups. We'll start putting the requirements together, carry it all the way through till getting multiple rounds of grant funding, because we're a small company, so we operate kind of like an academic research lab in a sense. So take it all the way through the design, the prototype, the testing, doing all the documentation to show that we're complying with international medical device regulations. So I know I'm about up on my 10 minutes, so I'll stop chatting now. I'm happy to talk about more of the specific projects that we're on, or if you have more questions about project management or quality management, I can talk about that in the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica.